Hi everyone and welcome to Crochet 101 for Intermediates, part 2 of the full learning course on crochet. Let's see what we will learn in this video. We will learn the type of patterns we have available at the moment. We will do a little recap on the stitches we previously checked on the beginner's course, start a project, new stitches, increases and decreases. Let's start with pattern. We have diagrams. This is a full pattern, but you don't know how to read it yet. Then we have the charts. Again, this one is really common with a specific designs and when you have a mixture of colors. Then you have the traditional written patterns. This is one of mine, which basically I'm really informative in every single step that I give you, but some of them are not. So we will learn how to do that too. And as well, the visual ones. These ones are the most modern ones, is the one that everybody loves. That's why you can come here to this platform and find millions and millions and millions of different videos showing you tutorials. And then obviously they're kind of easy to just follow along with them, and you end up turning a visual image into a physical product. But if you want to expand your knowledge in crochet, I will say that it's really important that you know how to read any type of pattern that you find. So like that, there will never be any restriction for you to know how to do so. First of all, you need to understand how many chains every stitch needs when you see a written pattern like this, a chart, a diagram. So I have leave this here for you. I have created this for you. One, to see the symbols of each of them, and two, to know how many chains. So screenshot this. And as well, I have created this one, which has the basic stitches list and the most advanced stitches list. And then again, please feel free to screenshot it. We're going to learn all of these in the upcoming videos, so you will know how to do all of them.
On the previous video, I have taught you all the basic stitches that are available in Crochet. Now comes the time to teach you how to actually work them for a project. Before it was a practice, and now it's an actual way of learning how you will use them in every single row. So I'm gonna teach you how to properly start it, and then how to do the modifications on the rows. Because before I was just more focused on you practicing every stitch. Now is how you will put all of this into an actual project. So let's get started with the stitches, so you know the little twists that I have prepared for you.
Let's start with the US half double crochet or UK half treble crochet. Well, we are going to start by doing a slip knot as we practiced in the previous video. By now you should be an expert on doing this. I'm just gonna remind you, it's holding with your thumb and your index in the tail of the yarn, rubbing it around your index, doing an X, then you hold it again with your middle finger. You can either insert your hook underneath the first loop, or you can insert your finger and do it as well, pulling it. Remember, we practiced different methods on the previous video, and if you haven't seen that video and you're an absolute beginner, I'd recommend you go there, see that video, practice that video, and then come back to me. Okay, then we're going to do chains. In this case, I'm going to make like 15-20 chains. As I say, it's all about the practice. You just have to do enough to be able to see what you're doing. So I will say if you do 5-6 chains, it's not going to be enough, and you're going to know in a second why. Remember, doing chains was simply just rolling your yarn around your hook and then pulling it through the loop that you have on your hook, and you can do this as many times as you need to, depending on the pattern. And as well, you should have practiced this already multiple times and be an absolute expert on it. Well, now for this type of stitch, remember on the previous video I just went and worked with you on the second one from the hook. Well, actually no, in a real pattern you're gonna have to go to the third one from the hook. So there you go, the first one, second one, the third one. There is where you will start this stitch, which again is the US half double crochet or the UK half treble crochet. You start on the third chain from the hook. That's how you start a pattern. Why? Because the chains you leave behind, the 2 chains you leave behind, is the 2 chains you're gonna do on the next round to create the height that you need for this stitch. So you have to start with the same amount of chains that you will do to create another row. I hope that makes sense. Like, remember in the previous video when we did 2 chains and then we turn and we continue practicing? Well, those are the chains you need to leave at the beginning. And I'm going right now explain to you in every single stitch how many of them you have to leave on the depending on the stitch that we are doing. So after that, you're just gonna go yarn over, insert your hook on this chain, and then yarn over and pull through 3, and that's the half double crochet or the half treble crochet. And that's the practice that you have to do. It was more to explain to you how to start it, and then I'm just gonna explain to you again once more how to do a continuation. So you will see that it's a repetition. The only difference is that the first row, which is the one with the chains, I know is the most difficult one, because I have many of you coming back to me saying, how is it? Well, that's why I decided to create these courses, because you need to remember that there are so many people in here that don't know how to do anything. So it's really important to explain everything from the very beginning. Like I said in the previous video, you have to work only the back loop of the chain. But when you do the stitches, you have to work the full stitch. And many of you again has come back to me saying, thank you, I was all the time doing it wrong. I was taking the whole chain rather than just the back loop, and my project was looking really weird. Yes, I know. You're welcome. That's why I do this. But first row is done. This is row number 1. You have done until the last chain next to the slip knot, and then you're done. Now you're gonna chain 2, because remember, you have the 3 loops on the bottom, and then you need 2 chains to create the height enough for this pattern, for this stitch. Then you're gonna turn, yarn over, and on the first one on the bottom of those chains, you're gonna do another half double crochet. You as well have to pay attention to these on the patterns, because on certain patterns, that first chains do not count as a stitch, but other times they do count as a stitch. And that's something you need to keep in mind, just because if you were to do a stitch like that, when it does count as a stitch, you're creating an extra stitch. If you are doing that stitch on the bottom of the chains, but it doesn't count as a stitch because of something you're going to do later on, well, it will disappear, the chain spaces. I know that might sound really complicated. It's something I try to explain a lot in all of my tutorials. So if you have watched any of my tutorials or you're about to, you will see that I always emphasize on those little details. And as well, here, by now, I don't want to confuse you anymore. We're just going to move along. Don't forget your last space, which, by the way, is on the corner of the project, and sometimes you cannot see it, but it's over there. And if you turn a little bit your project, you will see there's something curvy in there. Now there you can see your chain spaces together with our last stitch worked, and then we have the beginning with the other. Now what you have to do was either you have to chain 2 and continue practicing more rows, which I recommend you to do that. I will always suggest that you practice between 5 to 10 rows of this, and then otherwise you will just chain 1 and cut it. Let's move now to the US double crochet or the UK treble crochet. Prepare your slip knot and your chains. Again, I will suggest that since this is even a bigger stitch, you do at least 15 chains. The reason why I tell you this amount of chains is because you need to be able to see what you're doing. And if you do just few, it's not going to be visible enough. You're not going to understand how it's meant to look, how it's meant to go from one side to another, because you will rarely do really small stitches unless you're doing small patterns or small details for something bigger. Anyway, once you have done your chains, you're gonna go to the 4th chain from the hook. So you're gonna count the one from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4. That 4th, yarn over, insert your hook on it. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And those 3 chains that you just skipped, I know we did it on the 4th, but you only skip 3 chains and work on the 4th. Why? Because as I showed you at the beginning of the video, those are the amount of chains that you need for this type of stitch. That's why when we will turn in a moment, you're gonna see that we're gonna chain 3 and then continue working, because 3 chains represent this stitch. Again, I hope this is making sense. I will suggest you rewatch this if you don't. That's why I say screenshot what I just said about the stitches. So when you're working on them, you will know that's how many chains you have to do all the time, unless told otherwise. Because sometimes if you're doing modifications in certain patterns, when you move to the next row, you will chain differently. You will chain more or less if you are mixing stitches around or multiple things. Okay, that's why pay attention to all of your tutorials and your written diagrams and chart patterns. Or as well, make sure you know this chart that I just created for you, and then make sure you know how many chains are belong to every of them, just in case sometimes on the videos we make mistakes as well. Anyway, let's move now to the next row. Remember, we chain 1, 2, and 3. And then if you were to check, you will see the 2 loops of the last one that you just passed, and then you have 1, 2, and 3 chains. Then you can turn and move to the next row of this stitch, which again is a US double crochet or a UK treble crochet. Out there, you will mostly find the terminology in the US. This is how multiple of us know it about it. But it is good that you also know the UK one, because you never know when you can find online a pattern done by a UK crocheter and you will be like, what? What is this? Well, that's why I bring both of your terminologies here for you, which I hope it helps you and it teaches you something. And if you want to know the name of the stitches, well, I will suggest you go to my previous video if you haven't watched it, and then over in there you're gonna find a chart with the terminologies, which again you can always screenshot it, save it on your laptop, tablet, or phone, and then anytime you have to have a look at it, you can either print it and have it, write it on a notebook, or have it on the phone or tablet or computer, as I say, and then just have a look at it when you're reading a pattern. Same like I can assure you, by the end of all of these videos that I'm going to show with you, you will even be able to create your own pattern, create your own diagrams, create your own charts, everything of your own, and modify any other that you see out there. That is a promise that I'm going to keep, and I'm sure you will be able to. Don't forget you have your last stitch. It's always kind of turning there because it's the last one. It tends to turn around. Those are the first stitches that we skip. That's why it's kind of turned, because the first stitch pull it. But here, as you can see, we have chains on one side and chains on another, and this is how it look. Now decide if you want to chain 3 and continue, or do 1 and fasten off. Let's learn now the US treble crochet or the UK double treble crochet. We're going to start like usual with our slip knot and our amount of chains. For this one, which is even bigger, I will suggest you really go for 20 chains, because you want to practice it more. It's quite a little bit more difficult than the others, and as well it's a stitch that requires a lot of space, so I would suggest you go for a little bit more chains to be able to see better what you're doing, rather than do it really small and then all just become a clutter of stitches that you don't even know where you are and where you're going. So after you've done that, this one, you're gonna remember, put your yarn twice over the hook, and you're gonna go to the 5th chain from the hook, number 5, and then you're gonna insert your hook, pull the yarn, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. 3 times you do that. So those 4 chains you left at the beginning, remember, is the 4 chains I showed you in the previous video that you will do when you do the next round. So as you can see, all of these 3 stitches is the same thing. You just have to, however many chains I have teach you in the previous video, you have to do when you do row 2, is however many stitches you have to leave at the very beginning. The only one that we've done it, and as you can see, I haven't covered it in here because that was correct, is the US single crochet or the UK double crochet. That one you start from the 2nd chain from the hook, as I explained in the previous video. That's why I haven't mentioned it in here. We are just recapping on the other three that I teach you, but I did not explain you exactly where to start, because again, as I said at the very beginning of this video, my intention with that video was for you to practice those stitches and feel comfortable before you were ready to really do a pattern and go on with a full project. That's why as well you might have seen on the previous video that the first step we done, it was quite difficult to do it and it was looking quite weird. That's why, because we have not skipped the necessary chain spaces to start working. That was all. If maybe you watched that video and you were not an absolute beginner, you will be like, she's doing it wrong. Well, I've done it on purpose because that's how I learn. I remember when I absolutely learned that my grandma used to do the chains for me and told me where to start and do it. And it was really hard for me to know how to do it on my own because somebody was doing it for me. Okay, now we have reached the end, and then remember you have to chain 4, and then you will turn now and be able to continue working. So can you see? It's the same what we've done at the beginning. We skip 4 and then we start working. So now we chain 4 and then we continue working. And as I was saying, my little adventure when I was a kid, it took me many years until my grandmother explained to me how to do the slip knot, how to do the magic ring, which I'm about to teach you, and then how to start a full project and finish it. Sometimes she just wanted me to help her with the main project in the middle, and I didn't know how to do slip knots, magic ring, and chains for a very long time because she just taught me how to do the stitches. Can you believe that? But I was like, no, if I want to teach the people in here, I want them to know from the very beginning how to do the first things, and then from there move on with the stitches and everything, and then know how to do full projects. So I hope you're really enjoying these tutorials that I'm doing for you with a full, complete step-by-step, and for everything that it is to come, because I have incredible things your way, and I'm sure you're gonna love them very much. So keep an eye on all the upcoming videos because there's a lot to come really interesting that I'm sure is gonna bring your crochet hobby or dream to the next level. Well, here we have reached the end of this stitch, which again is a US treble crochet or UK double treble crochet stitch. Okay, this is how you call it in both of the terminologies, and is basically the one that you roll twice on your hook before you start working it. This is how it look, and then again on the corners you can see your chain spaces. That is really important to have them in both. Now comes the US double treble crochet or the UK triple treble crochet. It's really similar to the previous stage. We are again going to start with our slip knot and the amount of chains that you decide to do this practice. This is an absolute new stage that you did not learn on the previous video. I have decided to start with 15 chains. I think that for the first example is more than enough, but if you want to go for 20-25, that will be really good. Same like the repetitions of this stage, I will suggest that you do it between 5 to 10 times. The difference of this one is you're gonna roll the yarn 3 times on the hook before you do anything. So it's 3 times, so you have 4 loops before you start, and you're gonna count until the number 6 chain from the hook, and that's where you will insert your hook and start working, which means this stage requires for you to do 5 chains when you do more rows. Yes, that's what we have covered in the other stitches, and I hope it was clear. This one you skip 5, you start working on the 6, which means this stitch requires 5 stitches every round you work, and we repeat the same previous stitch. You yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you do it 4 times this time. So that's why I say it's really similar to the previous stitch. The only difference that you roll the yarn 1 extra time on the hook, so it's 1, 2, 3 times. So you have 4 loops on the hook before you start. You go to the next stitch, you insert it on the stitch, yarn over. Again, you have the 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is the whole way to do all of this. I know the first chains at the beginning, right now they look quite difficult to understand because it's like you are missing something in there, but it is not. Once we do the next run, you will see that's gonna stretch and it's gonna look properly. Again, in different patterns, different designs, you will get sometimes that they say to you that those chains count as a stitch, some other times they don't. And again, remember it's 3 times around the hook. That's why many times you will get confused and do a previous row stitch, which was the US treble crochet or the UK double treble crochet. Keep that in mind that this one is an extra one. And there are even more stitches, to be honest with you. I don't want to confuse you, but I want to teach you properly. That just to let you know, there are a lot more stitches like this one. Like you can go up to Kingsborough treble crochet, you know what I mean, in the UK, which again, that will be the quadruplet treble crochet in the US, just because it's always one stitch less. Let's say how the US and the UK stitches are being designed. Okay, but you can go up to that, and yes, some stitches will do, depends of the design. So be ready for all of that. The only difference that you will have is that you have to have one extra loop on your hook before you start working on the stitches. We have come to the end of the row. Remember, we don't work the slip knot. That's the slip knot. That's how it look like. We don't work on that one. Okay, we only work on the chains. And now we have to chain 5 to be able to turn and continue working on this stitch, because those are the amount of chains that we have skipped at the very beginning. Remember, so you will have the 2 loops on the bottom, and then you will have 5 chains to continue working. Turn your project, and then again roll the yarn 3 times on your hook, and you are ready to insert it on the first stitch under the chains, and then continue working all the way down. I'm gonna let you visually see what you have to do and let you practice this stitch a little bit more before we move to another type of stitch. Remember, this one is not so difficult. You just have to roll the loop 3 times on your hook before you can start working. Here is the end of my practice, which is 2 rows. I will suggest you do a lot more, especially to make sure you can remember the difference between the previous one and this one. This is how they look. Look what a big pillars they are. It's really easy to count this type of stitches and to make sure you haven't made any mistakes, because there's no hidden spots in here. It's all really wide open and visible. Now we're going to learn the magic ring with the chain method. Keep in mind there are 2 types of magic ring that you can do. One is the chain method and the other one is the circle method. Let's start with the chain one, which is really easy. And I will suggest you have with you a stitch marker, because you're going to need it, especially if you have never done a magic ring before, okay? So you're going to start same like we have done until now with a slip knot. This time you're only going to chain 4. This is my sample to teach you. Many other projects might tell you to chain more, okay? It's not always that you have to chain 4. Once you have chained 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're gonna go to the first chain next to the slip knot, which means the last chain, if you wanna call it that way. You're gonna go to the 4th chain from the hook. And once you are in there, over in there, mark it with your tapestry needle if you have to, or the stitch marker to know where you're going, so don't get confused. And over in there, you're going to do a slip stitch. Now, in the middle of there, you have created a space, a gap, a loop, a hole, however you want to call it. Can you see it in there? Not the chain, but the center. So in there, you're going to work your stitches. Normally, I will say magic rings start with single crochets. In some other patterns, you might start with bigger, but in a regular basis, you will start with a slip stitch, okay? You're going to insert your hook in the center of that loop that you have made. Then you're going to work a single crochet. Bring the tail with you and start hiding the tail, so the tail will follow you across the entire circle all the way back. Once you've done a single crochet, again you're going to insert yourself in that circle, and then again you're going to do another single crochet, and do this as many times as a pattern will ask you to do it. Here I believe I've done it for like 10 times just to show you how to see it. If you do it for less, I would say the practice is going to be slightly complicated, because you won't be able to see really what you're doing. It's not enough stitches. But the most important thing is you have to count them, and you have to know how many you have done. And then I'm gonna show you as well how to count them, because you could be doing here single crochets all day long and don't even know how many you have and what's going on, okay? So you will do all the single crochets, and the way of counting them is the same way how you will count the stitches on a chain space. Once you think you have come to the end, or you have fully come to the end because of following pattern that you're doing, you're gonna pull the tail and the center will be closed. That's not always gonna happen, because if you have so many stitches built in there and it's not enough to pull the tail, the circle will not close and you have it open, okay? That's why some people, we don't like to use this method of the magic ring unless we want a middle open, okay? Then once you've done, you're gonna put the tail away, you're gonna go to the first single crochet that you have created, and you're gonna slip stitch in there. And that completes the first row of your magic ring. Then pull your tail really hard if you really want that middle to be closed. But as I just mentioned, not always will be close, okay? Now, you will chain 1 and go to the first stitch that you have available in there, bring your tail with you, insert your hook in that space, and then work another. You see, you bring your tail down and you work another single crochet. Now, more than sealing the circle, because before when you were bringing the tail with you, you were sealing your circle to know how to close the center. Now you are just hiding away that, so you will avoid the sewing that you will have to do at the end of a project. Mark your first stitch, because otherwise you will not be able to know where did you start it. Magic rings get really confused. So always, always, always absolutely do your first stitch of the next row and then put a stitch marker on magic rings until you are absolutely and completely a pro in advanced crochet. I have been doing it for many, many years now, and I still put a stitch marker on my first stitch of the new row that I do, because many times I get distracted, especially when I'm doing videos for you. I'm talking so much, I'm not really paying attention many times, so I get confused over where my first stitch it is. And then the only thing you have to do is just work like if you were working on a line, like how we practice with the other stitches, but now you're practicing on a circle, how to do stitches. Now be really careful. Look what I'm pointing out. Do you see that in there? That's the first chain you have done before. That's the chain. You don't work the chain. That chain stays undone for the next row. You go to the stitch that you have marked. That's why it's really important to mark it. And that is where you do your slip stitch to close. Some magic rings, I don't want to confuse you, but some magic rings, we do not do chains. We straight away start working on the next row. So you will work until the stitch next to the stitch marker. If you have done a chain, you always have to keep in between what you will think is one stitch. I hope that makes sense. Practice your circle more, please. And let's now move to the magic ring with a circle method. This is the one that I love the most. You're gonna need a tapestry needle and your stitch markers. Now, you're gonna hold your yarn between your thumb and your index, really similar to before. Let it loose a little bit. Roll it around your index and make an X. Hold it with your middle finger. Pull the front loop loose. You're gonna insert your hook underneath. Yes, I know we're copying slip knot, but there's a little twist into it. Once you pass it, you're not gonna let go of it. You see, it's the same as the slip knot, but you're gonna twist your hook and then you're gonna chain one. So you're gonna twist to seal and chain one, and then you can let go. Look, you've done the circle. Now it's secure. I'm gonna show it to you again. Index and thumb, hold it, let it loose, leave a space because you have to do the circle, okay? Then do the X as usual and hold it again. Pull your front loop slightly to give you more space to do it. Insert your hook in there. Pull your back loop up and then do a twist in your project. There we go, you twist and then you do a chain. That chain will seal the magic ring. That's why you can let go of your finger. If you were not to do that chain, you will have to hold your magic ring for a very long time until you work so many stitches with you. Now, really important, the tail and the circle always goes together. So you always have to have two strands underneath you every time you're doing a stitch. The minute you only have one and you have let go of another one, which in this case normally people tend to let go of the tail, you will not be able to close the ring. Simple and easy. So two loops, two strings, always underneath where you're working your, in this case, single crochets. The way to work the single crochets is absolutely the same as usual. I'm going to be working few single crochets, and the reason is because I want to wait with you to be able to show you how to do close a little bit the circle, just in case you come to a point where it's like, I'm too close to the tail. Don't panic, stop, hold your tail, pull it slightly. You don't have to close the circle completely. See, the circle is still open, you still have space, and then you're gonna go. Now, how do you count the stitches? I told you before, right? Look, that is a stitch in there, that's one, that is two, so it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hiding down below is 10. And as you can see, it's the same way that count them on a straight line. Do you want to continue doing more stitches? Go and do more stitches, as more as you want to practice inside the ring. Again, remember, two loops, two strands needs to be underneath your stitches at all time. Why? Because you're about to do magic. You're about to pull your tail, pull it really tight, and there we go. You absolutely close the circle. And if you secure this on the next round, there is no way that circle will ever open again. So now that you have closed your circle, work all the stitches that you need, take the tail away, put it on the other side because you need it out of the way. And you're gonna go to the first chain there, the first stitch, sorry, that you have done. There you go. First stitch is in there, first V. And in there, you're gonna do a slip stitch, and that will secure the magic ring that we have created. There we go. There is secured now, completely sealed. You can even pull the tail slightly stronger and harder to make sure it's fully closed. Now you're going to chain one to start, which again, not always this happen, but I want to show you like that. And then now what you're going to do is you're going to count the stitches that you have, and then you're going to start on the first one, not in there, but in there. That's your first stitch, okay? Not the one exactly underneath your chain that you have done. Bring the tail up with you. See, there we go, in between. So you bring the tail on top of your hook. That doesn't count as anything more than we are hiding, okay? And then you work another stitch. Now mark it up, because remember, we need to know where we are at. And I know we've done one chain, but you don't know how to do this yet, so you will not know where is your first stitch and where you're going. So you're gonna continue doing more stitches around the circle, following all the stitches that you have done, bringing the tail with you all the way around until you hide it. And I could say, even if you finish this row and your tail still not hidden, you will be able to continue bringing it for the next round. But I will say, after you hide it on this row, you can feel more than confident to cut it off and it will be secure. It's not like it's gonna come off at some point around your project, okay? And something I always suggest, before you cut it off, pull it slightly again a little bit so you make sure it's absolutely closed and sealed, because once you cut it, you cannot go back. And for me, as you can see, it's exactly going to end where my row 2 ends. Sometimes you might struggle, like it's happening to me right now, with the last stitch because it's close to the chain and it's quite tight, but it's in there. And then again, I'm going to show you that is your chain. That's the chain one that we've done at the beginning of row number 2. We don't work the chain. We go exactly inside the first stitch, which is the one where we put the stitch marker. You can remove the stitch marker now. Also, you're going to see that the first stitch and the chain space, the size is completely different, so it should be obvious where you have to go. Then you're going to slip stitch, and you have finished how to do the magic ring with the adjustable ring. Let's do the magic ring in creases. This is something you are going to do for multiple projects, starting from dolls, coasters, bags, beanies. Many projects do this because they start on a magic circle and they do increases. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain one as we did before, and then in the first stitch, not the one underneath the chain, but the next one, there what you're going to do is you're going to do one single crochet. And after you've done that single crochet, what you're going to do again is on that same space, you're going to put another single crochet in there. So it's 2 single crochets in the same space. Take your stitch marker and hold it in there to mark your first stitch, okay? Really important. I know right now, doing especially increases, by the end of the row, it will be visible where we are and where we're going, but just as a reminder, because I don't want you to lose yourself where you are and you're here just practicing, I want to remind you that the stitch marker is a must for these projects. To practice, just go around the entire circle and then do 2 single crochets on or whichever other stitch is telling you to do your project. But in this case, start practicing just with the single crochet in every single stitch. So that is an increase. So now remember, when we say an increase, it means 2 stitches in the same stitch space. And then you're gonna do that across the entire circle. And if you feel confident enough, chain one and start another bow, and then again do 2 increases on every single stitch around. You can practice start counting stitches and learn how to count more stitches, how to make sure you haven't messed up any increases, etc. Now, to check the increases, it's as simple as open a little bit your project and you should see 2 stitches in the same space. It's as simple as that. Unless sometimes, okay, you kind of have like a V inside every stitch that represents 2 stitches together. It's like 2 little groups and in a V shape. That is the increase. In some patterns, you will see that they tell you do XYZ amount of single crochets and then an increase. So that means that you have worked a increase, but not in all of them. Right now we are practicing in all of them. And then again, remember you have the chain space. We do not do anything on the chain space. No one single crochet, no one increase, nothing. We skip it and then we do 1 slip stitch. And right now we have finished, but I suggest you do more rows, practicing increases, which is 2 stitches on the same space before you move to the next step, which is the magic ring decreases. Moving on, I have left the circle how it was with the increases. I suggest you practice a lot your increases. Don't take it off and then practice your decreases on it, so it will help you to see it bigger. What you're gonna do is you're gonna chain 1. I'll suggest you do the first one as a normal single crochet. Then you're gonna go, you need to take 2 stitches in one seam, okay? So you're gonna go to the next one and you're gonna take the front loop, not the whole stitch, the front loop of it, that one, just the front, because we want to hide this from the end of the project, okay? If you were to take it all, it will be so visible and you're not gonna like it. How does it look? So this is an invisible decrease. Take the front loop of the next stitch and then hold it and go to the next stitch, and again take only the front loop of the next stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over now, okay? Look at the back loops. Can you see the back loops of those 2 stitches that you took? Okay, those stay there. Don't touch that. Those are the ones that are gonna hide what you just done. And then you're just gonna yarn over and pull through all of them. That's how you decrease on a single crochet. And then you're gonna repeat this as multiple times as you need it to understand it. I will suggest for the beginning, to don't confuse yourself, do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, which is 2 stitches together, 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, and then so on. And if you have done a practice, a really big circle, you will have a lot of stitches to decrease. And the more you start decreasing, you will start at your circle, start having a shape. And that's how you create the shape in so many things, so many projects. How you create a shape on a, as I say, on a beanie, on a coaster, on a little doll. And all of that is by creating the decreases. That's how the shape turns, okay? Otherwise, you're just expanding. Normally in a coaster, we wouldn't do decreases just because of the size that we want. There will be no sense on increasing on a coaster and decreasing at the same time. It will be more, as I say, on like dolls or beanies, or in dolls, beanies, what else can I think now? Baskets as well, that you work in circles, or any tote bags, not tote bags, but you know, these backpacks as well. And the magic of all of this is, as I said, to only take the front loop, because by taking the front loop, you secure that you can't really see it at the other side. And that's the magic of knowing how to create these perfect designs, that you never know where is the beginning and the end of the project. And that is an advanced pro master in crochet level of design. Okay, so if you want to reach that, I'm already teaching it to you. It's by all of these tricks of hiding stitches, of sometimes not doing a chain on circles so you don't create a line that you can see where is the beginning and everything. That's what the chains do. The chains create a shape that some of us, we don't like it. I don't like it. That's why I avoid to do chains in so many circles if I can, because I don't need them, I don't want them, I can straight away continue working. And you're gonna see that in few projects that are to come. At the moment, continue practicing, continue learning these new stitches, and once you're ready, then you can move to any of my patterns, because obviously they are prepared for beginners, but not for absolute, I have no idea how to do anything on crochet beginners. Okay, here you have the result of how does it look. I hope it was helpful and easy enough, because it's not that difficult to do the creases. Okay, let me show you how to do the other stitches in creases. Here I already changed, I already work a whole row of half double crochet US or half treble crochet UKs. I have chained 2 and I'm ready to start the next row. So on the first stitch from the under the chains, I'm gonna work 2 half double crochets, 2 stitches, 2 half treble crochet if you wanna call them, in that first space. That's what I'm going to repeat all the way down. You don't have to, it all depends on the pattern, as I always say. Maybe the pattern only told you to do one time yes, one time no. That could be an option as well. But the point on this is that you see and practice how to do the other stitches in creases, which is same that the single crochet, because it's just basically you putting 2 stitches in one same space over and over again. Help yourself, pull a little bit with your thumb and index from your left hand, and then with the other hand, and then see where you're going and where you're coming from, and then you will be able to see how many stitches you have done, how many stitches you have left, etc. So it's just a constant practice that maybe if you left your project done with the practice of these stitches or other stitches, now continue by doing increases and decreases. Why not? Because it's just a way for you to have a reference for the future, so you know how it will look like, how it should measure. It's a tag, so it's supposed to tell you how much tension you're using on your patterns as well in all of your projects. So for the future, you can use that as a reference when you compare with other people's projects. So again, we are just going to continue over and over again around doing different increases. And what is that done? Then you should be able to count them and physically see the amount of chains that you have, the stitches that you have done and everything, which it should be the double with what you started with. So if you've done 10 chains, 10 half double crochets or half treble crochets in the UK at the beginning, now you should have 20 or more. It all depends on how many you did at the very beginning. Always remember, when you're doing increases, if you increase in every single stitch, means you should have the double amount of them by the end of this round. So that's how you do the increases. Then remember, you will either chain 1 and fasten off, or chain 2, turn, and then start working the next round. And last but not least, other stitches decreases. Then we have done the previous row, we just finished it, we chain 2, and we are going to, first I will suggest you do the first one as a normal stitch, don't do any decreases or anything. Then you're gonna go on the next space, and same that we practiced before on the circle, here is the same. So you have the loop that you have on my left thumb, that's the back loop. The front loop is the one that is always looking at you, and the back loop is the one looking the other side. So on the front loop only is where you're gonna do your decreases. On a circle, I know it looks differently, that's why I decided to show it to you 2 ways. And like that, I'm also teaching you how is it called the front, what is the front loop and what is the back loop. That's how is it called basically. And then now you know which one represent what, and you as well know how to do the decreases. So you're gonna yarn over as usual, then you're going to insert it on the next 2 stitches, you're gonna pass it through, you're gonna have 3 loops on your hook, and then what you're gonna do in here, it's a repetition of what you've been doing all the time, which is going to be yarning over and pulling the 3 of them. And if you were to do the next stitch, you will have done these by doing pull through two, pull through two, pull through two, and so on. I hope that makes sense for the other stitches. I didn't want to completely show you every single stitch because it's really easy. It's just the same repetition that before. The only difference that the way to start it, rather than insert it only in one stitch, you're taking front loops and then do the creases, doing two stitches together. And that's how you do the creases on the normal flat surface of projects. Now, for the upcoming videos, there's one more video coming up where I'm going to teach you way more advanced stitches that are available right now and are really well known and used, and I'm sure you love them and you don't know how to do it. That will be the last video on this 101 crochet course. After that, you're gonna have 3 separate videos where I'm gonna do 3 different levels of projects, and we're gonna do one project from beginning to end for beginners, for intermediate, and for advanced, and that will complete what it is in this learning course. And then from there we will move to the normal tutorials as usual. So yes, that might be a slightly long project as well and a long video, because I'm going to work with you from beginning to end. We're not going to stop. We're just going to go all the way to it. I'm going to try to do really simple projects so it doesn't take that long, but you're going to work with me, and like that you should not have any questions or any doubts of what you have to do and don't. For all of that, I suggest you subscribe, like this video, let us know in the comments if you have done it and how you're doing it. If you have any question, leave it on the comments down below or find us on social media to ask us. And press the notification bell so as soon as I upload another video, you will get notified. And I see you really soon. On the meantime, I suggest you start checking some of my really easy videos that I have available in here that I'm sure by now you should be able to do a few of them. Thank you so much for passing by and for being here and for learning with me as well. Check out on my description box down below a lot of really important links, especially our brand new vlogs that we have available on our Patreon for all of our patrons members. So I really hope you also like those vlogs on the behind the scenes of how this channel and this company came to exist. And I see you really, really soon with another one. Check out right now at the end the next few videos you have available that you might like. See you soon. Bye now.